So please welcome Cecil and Joe.
So we're going to play a book trailer that I made, and I actually commissioned my friend, this Canadian folk singer named Dana Sipos, to do a version of Wayfaring Stranger, which is an old folk song. So we're going to listen to that first, and then there will be more. So get ready. Do this. This is very fancy. Oh, yeah, okay. You. All right. Yeah. Slideshow. All right. Soupy Leaves Home. So Joe and I are going to talk a little bit, and then we're gonna actually ask a couple of you to read with us what the hobo code is. So, Soupy Leaves Home is a Depression-era graphic novel, and it's about a girl named Soupy who leaves an abusive situation and runs away and reinvents herself as a boy named Soupy once she meets an old hobo named Ramshackle, and she rides the rails with him. So I wanted to talk a little bit. Do you all have like your hobo code pieces of paper?
No.
Pass them along. So, and I've hidden hobo codes all over the store here. You can see one right there. That's a hobo code, and that means this is a good place to catch a train. And there's one over here behind me. and that is, here's a good place to camp that has fresh water. Right behind you, the gentleman in the green back there, you can see that hobo sign, which means get out quick. So the hobo signs were these signs that the hobos had that they made in order to warn and alert the other hobos that were traveling behind them about who you could ask for a meal, what you needed to do for that meal, whether or not the town was open to hobos or not open to hobos, and they were chalk signs. So here are some of the ones that you can see here. Leave quickly, stay here, gentleman lives here, which meant you could probably knock on that door and get some food. Rich people live here, they probably had some bread, because you have to understand, a lot of the major hobo-ness, even though it always was happening, was during the Great Depression. There was sort of a mass amount of hoboing, and actually a lot of children became hobos during the Great Depression because the oldest child would actually leave home in order to not cause a burden on their parents, so that they didn't have to feed. So you can see what I am really fond of is the cat, because I feel like there are many ladies that I know that could have a cat on their thing. But all of these things sort of gave you information about what you could find in a town that you went to, and there were sort of simple signs. And Joe and I were actually talking about it, about how some of the signs were, there could be many different signs to mean one thing, like to sit, to ask for a doctor, or what bad water sounded like. So I've got some chalk and I've got some pieces of paper. If anybody would like to make their own hobo sign and then tell us what it means afterwards, we're going to pass this along. It could mean anything: kind lady, good food, or it could just be like, heartbreak hotel, like whatever you want it to mean. But this is just to give you an idea of what look, the bird, isn't that funny? That's like from the 1930s. And the little bird meant free telephone available here, and now we have Twitter. It's like, what? It feels like everything old is new again. So that's, and you can see that's my drawing of the good place to hop a train, and that's the real drawing. I did okay. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually, can we have, how many people do we need? 3 people? Can we have 3 volunteers to come up and help us do some reader theater of the hobo code, please? Yes, I know you want to do it. Patty? Patty's coming up? Yeah, Patty. Woo! Patty. Who else is going to do it? 2 more people. Just be brave. All right, yay! Okay, and we need to get copies, so we need to open it up to that page. And then we need one more person. I'm going to call on someone. Jen Kretschmer? Yes, please? I know you're an actor, so... Okay, so we're going to start here. So this is the page that we're going to. It's page 36. Page 36. So we have to assign parts to you. Here you go. We have to assign parts. I'm going to be Soupy.
You would.
Yeah. she literally says nothing. She says Soupy. And I guess I'll do the captions. And you'll be Ramshackle. And you are... Okay, so you're going to be Gums. You're going to be Tomcat Tuna. And she's going to be Professor Jack. That's it, right? You're going to be Professor Jack. Okay. So see this guy with the funny hair, like that guy. That's
Tomcat Tuna.
That's Tomcat Tuna. That's you.
Okay.
And then that guy with the hat, not to be confused with Ramshackle, is Gums. Okay, and then Professor Jack is that sort of smoldery poldark looking guy in the back. Not that he's hot or anything.
He looks iffy.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we can start with Tomcat.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you know what? We can just do whatever. So it's like, we can take it slow if I need to point to you. So you're starting as Tomcat.
All right.
Yeah. I'm ready for it. I mean, you can read along over there. I don't know. I've never tried this before, so we're just going to make it happen.
All right.
It's hard to read graphic novels out loud. That's the problem.
Try an audiobook. I did.
Yeah.
Hey, Bo. Tomcat Tuna.
Gums McGee.
Ramshackle.
Who's that?
He's shy. I've got him under my wing. Show him the ropes. Showing him the ropes.
Well, he needs a name.
When Tomcat smiled, you were distracted from any darkness.
Can't be a man a person can trust if you don't got a name.
And when Gums smiled, he showed all of his gums. Soupy.
I knew you had a name. Soupy. Very nice to meet you. We've got a...
We got a space over there. Come settle with us. I've been here a week. Oh, wait, I have another one.
Yeah.
Gums just arrived 2 days ago.
Oh, I have to move. I'm sorry.
Oh, there we go.
I neglected to...
That's
Sorry.
my fault.
Okay, yeah. It's my fault.
Gums just arrived here 2 days ago, but he's already king of the camp. I've got a lot of lines. Gums seems to know everyone and everything.
I've been hearing about some picking in the South. I've got a connection.
We're headed south for a spell.
You deciding for the boy, or you letting him decide for himself?
Soupy, choose our destination.
Soupy, do you speak?
I speak.
That's a weak little voice. Could get you killed if you mewl like that. You need to learn how to roar.
He's got some good learning to do.
He's got to learn some of the rules.
Well, with that, we can help you out. Let's see. Oh, shit, I got a lot of lines. Rule number 1 is decide your own life.
Don't let another person run or rule you.
I liked rule number 1. I'm just going to interject here and say that these rules are actual hobo rules from the Code of the Road, the ethical code created by Tourist Union number 63 at the annual Hobo Convention in the late 1890s. So these are real rules.
Hobo convention?
Yeah, there's actually one every single August in Britt, Iowa. Yes.
Always be a gentleman and respect the law.
I could never be a gentleman. That's because she's a girl. But I could respect the law. Just pretend it's you.
Yeah. Don't take advantage of someone who is in a vulnerable situation. Always try to find work, even if it's temporary, and always seek out jobs nobody wants. When no employment is available, make your own work by using your added talents at crafts. I guess I'll jump in these ones too. Do not allow yourself to become a stupid drunk.
I would never. Not ever. I hate drunks.
Good for you. There's a difference between a stupid drunk and a drunk.
Why don't we give it to you? You say that next line.
When jungling in town, respect handouts, do not wear them out. Another hobo will be coming along who will need them as bad, if not worse than you. Always respect nature. Do not leave garbage where you are jungling. Always pitch in and help. Try to stay clean and boil up wherever possible.
Boiling up means take a bath.
When traveling, cause no problems. You ride your trains respectfully. There is always another hobo who will be coming along after you who will need passage or a handout.
Eat when you can, share what you can.
When you are down and out, you want so badly for strangers to like you.
We ain't got nothing here for you. Go on, get away from us.
Phony.
To be put under a spell, so you're not alone.
Avoid jungle buzzards like that one.
That's where I stopped it.
Okay, cool.
But it goes on. More and more. But anyway, I just wanted to read that passage because I thought it was a good passage about the hobo code, which is, I think, something that I think is really interesting. This sort of amazing code that the hobos created. I'm gonna keep a picture up so that we have the beauty of Joe's art. Let's do that page. So, do you have anything that you want to say?
I mean, when talking about specifically about the hobo code, I do think that it's something very. We got the microphone, so it sounds more official. I just want to piggyback on what you're saying, where it's very fascinating that in those tough times that the country was going through, there were these, this array of gentlemen, or this array of people actually, who found moral and decency as the way of life, and just decided to make this invisible code. And going back to what you were saying about how a lot of the hobo signs that they came up with, I mean, I know that you did a lot of research, and probably more than I did, way more than I did. So the little that I found was just like they're just very cryptic signs, but also that also leads me to think that maybe there's just this way of how it was a combination between written and verbal traditions amongst themselves, and just like this tight sense of community. And I just think that's something so cool.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think one thing that I really love about hobos is that it's sort of this shadow society, right? It's like they were run out of town a lot. People disrespected them. Like a lot of times when you say to kids like, it's a hobo, that's a homeless person, or that's like a bum, or that's like, and that's just not true. Like hobos did not think of themselves as homeless. They weren't homeless. They were intentionally transient, and they didn't think of themselves as beggars. They weren't begging for food. They would knock on your door and they would ask for work. They would never. They didn't assume. Like one of the hobo codes is like always try to pay your way. Like, it was just that they had a different way of living. And I think the reason why they had to have this another code that we didn't put in there that they had was, and it's sort of a big sort of part of the book, is one of the hobo codes is if you see a runaway, try to get them to go home. Help children and try to get runaways to go home. And that was like, I mean, that's a big part of sort of what's happening in Soupy Leaves Home is this young woman who dresses up as a boy. Now, there were a lot of girls that did go on the road, and they did dress up as boys. They didn't dress up as boys because they wanted to be boys, necessarily. Maybe some of them did, but they dressed up as boys because it was safer for them to be on the road and to dress up as boys. Because in the 1930s, being a girl on the road, I mean, it was just hard being a girl. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also, just really hammering it down, one of the things that I just like about those rules so much is also just how they keep saying, don't misbehave, or don't give hobos a bad rep.
Yeah.
Because if we're all transient, if we're all passing by, then if you give hobos a bad rep, that's going to give the next one coming in who has nothing to do with you, doesn't know you, has nothing to do with your life, but also you could be paving an ill path for them. Don't do that. Try to keep this lifestyle that we're creating as peaceful and as with a good rep, if you will, as much as possible.
And I just feel like that's like good manners.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah. So
let's talk about Mulligan stew for a little bit.
Oh gosh, who else is hungry? Okay. Let's.
Why don't you start?
Okay, so does anyone know what Mulligan stew is? Has anybody ever heard of this tradition? Like we have a couple of yes, we have a few shy hands. Well, as you can gather, it's a stew. But do you want me to take it?
Yeah, you take it.
So the cool thing about Mulligan stew is that as you would have, if you can see in the book, or you will discover if you haven't read it yet, they would start cooking a stew, but they would always have people bring in whatever they can to contribute to the stew. So a lot of it was you bring what you can, and it's the idea was to make enough stew for everyone in the camp, or the jungle, if you will. That's the name that
that's what they called the camps.
That's
were
what
jungles.
they called the camp. So it's I kind of kept wondering what if they were camping in the desert? Would they still call it a jungle? But that's neither here or there. Anyways, so. Once the sun went down, and when it was dark, everyone would just contribute to creating this meal or this feast, as what it was for them, and everyone would put in whatever they could bring, whether it was a couple of onions or some fruit or some vegetables, whatever it is they could be carrying and be contributing to. And I'm going to let you carry this one. If they had nothing to bring into the table.
Yeah, if you had nothing to bring in the table, you could still share in the stew. And the understanding was that the next time you had something, it was your obligation to share. And once again, like I just think that, just like with the hobo code, the ethical code of hobos, that like this idea of mulligan stew is just so beautiful that that you bring what you can to the table, and that if you can't bring something to the table this time, one day you will be able to bring something to the table. And so, next time you'll bring something to the table. And I just feel like it's this really beautiful, I mean, that's the world I want to live in. You know what I mean? Like where it's this like nice human spirit of generosity and care and attention and sort of honor, there was something about when I came up with the idea for the book, it was basically I just wanted to run away, and I didn't know how, and I just thought, hobos just hit the road, and that seems kind of cool. But then I started reading about hobos, and I started watching documentaries about hobos, and I started researching hobos, and I watched movies about hobos, and I was like, it goes so much deeper than just sort of like it's a person with a bindle stiff, and everybody was a hobo. There were children that were hobos. There was no there were every color of hobo that you could possibly have, because they were migrant workers. They would go and they would pick in fields, and they would do whatever they could, and so it was a real sort of outsider special society, even though. So they kind of came together, outside of society. That said, they also had their own troubles within their own society, because every group or scene has their own drama.
Even the Amish.
Yeah.
I completely. Yeah.
What kind of research did you do? I read a lot of books.
I watched a lot. No, I looked at a lot of. I looked at a lot of fashion, for starters. Like that's like it's. I looked at a lot of fashion. I looked at a lot of what the outfits were like, and try to get a sense of just. One of the things that always caught my eye is like, why were they always so dusty? That's one of the things that just really popped into me. It's just like the clothes were so baggy, so that's why I definitely liked them. But as far as research involving. Like learning more about their lifestyles and like this, just history, just reading a lot of historical articles
and looking at trains, right?
Oh yeah, it's learning the history of trains, learning like the history of the railroad. It's the U.S. had a really interesting history towards the end of the 20s and throughout the 30s, not just in music, but it was really fascinating just to see how they were pushing on this entire different, these new ways of thinking that were starting to reach out its own. It's almost as if we were seeing the final stages of the Industrial Revolution hitting effect, like in this really weird social ripple effect. So I was reading a lot about that. Also, just reading the difference between, because I think, spoiler alert, it's a journey story, so it goes from all across the country. Just what it was like, between living in a city versus living in the country in the 30s, and those are things that it kind of resonates to this day, but not the way that it was back then. So that's the kind of research that I was doing. It's just like I like history a lot. Yeah.
Also, I think like one thing is that like what sort of transfixed me about that sort of time, 1932, is that the idea of what it meant to be a modern person, a modern woman, a modern man was sort of just emerging. This is a time in 1932 where if you had bobbed hair, that was considered like the most scandalous thing in the world, and yet they just found Pluto, you know what I mean? Like, they were like, oh my God, Pluto, and women only had the vote for like, 10 years.
Yeah, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, 10 or 12 years. And so it was like this idea of like what it meant to be a woman, what it meant to be a man, what it meant to be a thinker, all of these kinds of things. It was sort of it was just very open because nobody sort of knew what it meant to be in this modern world, and I think
Right.
that was sort of the like what you're talking about, like sort of the end of the Industrial Revolution and the beginning of this sort of new thing. Meanwhile, while people had lost everything, I mean, because of the Depression, they had nothing.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Should we open it up maybe
Yeah,
for questions?
does anybody have any
I'm sure
questions?
you all have a lot of questions. Yes. Hi, Sina. Thanks for being our actor.
I got you. How did you two find each other? Was it through an editor or?
I mean, it's. I know that I like the long version of the story, but why don't you tell the short
No,
version?
why don't you tell the long version? I like it.
Are you sure?
Well, I just want to say one thing first, is that I would just like to give a big shout out to the original editor of Soupy Leaves Home, Sierra Hahn, who's here in the audience. She's the one who bought this book, and I would just like to say that I came up with the idea for this story in October of 2008, and it took a really long time for me to sell the book, and then it took a really long time for me to find an artist who would finish the book or do the book. And so number one is that there was another artist before, and then as happens with comic books, that didn't work out. And then we got a new editor, Chantal Larocque, because Sierra had moved on to Boom Studios. This book is on Dark Horse, and we needed a new artist, and they found. Joe, do you want to tell the story?
I mean, I've said this quite a few times, but I can't stretch it enough. Like the way that we ended up working together was very serendipitously, and it's like, probably not a shy away from just being a total fluke, which is great and really makes you appreciate the kind of opportunities that can come around. Because the way that I know that it happened is the book had just been passed on to Chantal, our editor. And a peer or a colleague of mine who also, by the way,
I had done a short comic with.
Yeah, it's a very small world. So Dark Horse is located in Portland, by the way, and several cartoonists and comic book artists live in Portland because they like rain. So my friend Kel McDonald was having lunch with Chantal Larocque, and they were just having like a, hey, let's get together and have some lunch kind of thing. And I don't know exactly why the circumstances pushed Chantal to say, like, I'm a little concerned because I need to find an artist for this book. And Kel asked, well, what kind of book is it? And Chantal described the book, and Kel McDonald just said, oh, I know someone who has drawn books that take place in the late 20s, 1930s, if you want to check out his stuff. And she's like, yeah, sure, okay. They're friends. They'll take each other's word for it. And they looked at some of my previous work, so immediately, I don't know how much right after, but Kel sent me an email saying, hey, by the way, just in case, because I know you, and you'll think that someone's playing a joke on you, but no, you're about to get an email from Dark Horse, and it's about a book. Anyways, so I was like, all right, cool. Like, that's what they're saying. And yeah, it's about a day or so later, I got an email from Chantal, who just gave me a paragraph description of what the book was about and asked if I could do a couple of character sketches just to see if I could sense the feel for it. And then you and I didn't meet until Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it turned out really well. I mean, like, one of the most amazing things about doing comics that I'm sure everybody here in the room that does comics knows is that when it works really well, you get to collaborate with someone who is amazing, and like Joe is amazing, and it's just like, it's like this like flow just happens, and you can like I would get thumbnails back from Joe, and I'd just be like, oh, well, we can just throw out all my words. I mean, like, I literally just like would just throw out. So, I mean, there are a lot of words that's a lot of words on this page. I mean, there would be pages where I'd just be like, yeah, we don't need anything. Like, we just don't need them anymore. And I think that's like the amazing thing when you're doing comics is that, when you have a really great collaboration with somebody, you can trust that the story is being told without your words. That, like, it's like, I'm cool that there are no words because I still wrote the story, and you can trust it with the, that's the baton that you're passing back and forth, and it's a visual medium.
Right, and as much as I appreciate the compliments, but also, I mean, and I'll definitely take I'll take the compliment where it fits, but also put that into consideration. Just imagine how well you wrote what you did in order for me to understand what you were trying to get at and translate it into pictures. Like that's like, and that's something that I don't want it to go unsaid and to any level. It's like it's great that we got rid of some captions and some dialogues, and it's a very quick read, and it's just flies, but you described really well what you were trying to get at, and that's another thing that I kind of want to tie into the story of how we met. It's just like once I understood the feel of the story that you were trying to tell, I just felt very comfortable. So that's kind of why I say that it's very serendipitous, because it's the kind of stories that I like to tell, and it was just such a fitting project for me that meeting you was was really good.
Well, and but that's like the great thing. It's like it goes back to that collaboration thing where it's like it is so symbiotic, right? Like everybody here who writes comics, right? It's like doot 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 doot. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Question. Well, I've got a question and a follow-up.
Oh.
My first question is the character of Ramshackle. I'm happy enough to have just read this book, and everybody buy it. It's amazing. But you can kind of see it there in the flames. Like he tends to be surrounded by like these whimsical sort of swirls and feathers and things. There's a magic to him. And I wonder, Cecil, how did you script that, or was that something that, Joe, you decided to put in there? Like, I'm trying to understand how far the collaboration.
I scripted that. I think. I don't think that I scripted and it looks like whimsical smoke, but I definitely scripted that Ramshackle had this sort of magical, and I think I put notes in that would be like, and you can, perhaps he is flying here, perhaps he is doing. I always just sort of give sort of suggestions to the artists that I'm working with. I do the same with Shade the Changing Girl, which is the comic book that I'm writing now with Marley Zarconi, and that is, sometimes there's madness, which is like that's her superpower is madness, and it's like I'm like, and then things go strange, whatever you think that might be, and then things go crazy, and that's just sort of like an indication to the artist. I think that what I'm doing is giving a baton to just be like, interpret this as you will,
I mean, yes to all that, and definitely in the script it was very well, it was always well described, well descripted as into the kind of magic that this character is, which is what really puts this book in the sense of magical realism, is that he had this way of encouraging and also drawing in these weird things. How I came up with just like these things of that they look kind of like a little feathery and kind of flimsy. I'm about to wave my nerd flag right here. Is architecture in the 1920s and in the 1930s was just so modern, and everything was so much about straight edges and clean line and solid and metal, like rigidness, that it just made sense as the best way to describe something that is beyond what you can see or what is physically there is by things that are swirly, or things that are more natural, or things that are more nature inclined, or things that are just more, well, it even sounds like a curve. When you say whimsy, it just sounds like a spiral. But it was as far as like coming up with the design for it, like it just seemed to fit of like putting those contrasts against each other. And even when you're looking at, for instance, camp scenes of the trees are all like just very tall and straight lines, but just having these kinds of people in your life that are just they're so transcendent, and and they just inspire you to just to go beyond. They're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like it's gonna be something that is more it's untangible, I guess. So it's
surrounded by his own starry night.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
The one thing about the character of Ramshackle is that Ramshackle is this old hobo, and the idea of him was that he was a man out of time. Like he was a man who was an inventor who really was born at the wrong moment in time.
Right.
And I went to the Museum of Jurassic Technology at one point, and there are these letters to the Mount Wilson Observatory that they have up for display. And there's this one letter that's always struck me, and I feel like this explains what Ramshackle is like. It's this one letter, and it's a man who was like 25 years old, and he wrote a letter to the Mount Wilson Observatory and was like, because they had just discovered Pluto, and, you know, they were looking at Mars, like Mount Wilson really, like they looked at Mars very closely for the first time. And he wrote a letter, and he was like, I feel that one day we will be exploring these planets. I am ready to go to space and to become an explorer of these planets. But it's like 1929. You know what I mean? Like, there is no astronaut program. You know, that guy was completely born at the wrong time. And you could see in this letter this sort of passion about his feeling that one day there is going to be a need for gentlemen or ladies to go to space, and I am ready to sign up. And totally born at the wrong time. And it broke my heart when I saw this letter, and I feel like that's sort of the idea of what Ramshackle is. Mm-hmm. Ramshackle is a man who's an inventor, who's a hobo, who's a dreamer, who sees the possibilities of the future and where the world could go, but he's just in the wrong time. Like, he's just not born in the right time. And I think that sometimes that happens. Yep. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is that the way that I wrote the script was I did this script as an open script rather than a full script, which full script means that you do like sort of page 1 and then you say like panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. Usually when I do a full script, I do that, but I always write to the artist or whatever you want. Like, you know, here a five panel page, but seriously, just do whatever you want. But with an open script, I do page 1, and then I break it down what I think is the emotional content of that page, and then I let the artist break it down for pacing in the way that they want. And so that's a lot of the reason why I also threw out a lot of words, because sometimes, like when I was writing the script, what I was doing was I was trying to convey to Joe what the emotional temperature was of the book, and so then he could sort of pick and choose what was important or not. Yeah.
Well, my follow-up question.
Yes. Sorry.
What does hobo mean?
Oh, there is nobody really knows what hobo actually means. There are some theories. One of the theories, and I think it's the theory that I sort of ascribe to, is that it means hey bo, which is like just like a hello, right? Like boy, like hey boy, but shortened to hey bo, and then it was shortened to hobo. And I think that's what I think it means, but nobody actually knows what hobo actually means. Some people say it means homeward bound. There are many, many different theories. You can Google it. Nobody actually knows what it means. I mean, nobody knows where it originated. Yeah.
It's not from the Latin.
No.
Maybe French, but no.
Yeah.
Did you come up with a character first or the story first?
So I came up with the idea. So the original artist had posted on Facebook in October of 2008, if I were a hobo, my hobo name would be Ramshackle. And I commented, and I said, if I were a hobo, my hobo name would be Soupy. And then I was like, wow, I wonder what Soupy is. And so that it was character first. It was like, I thought, well, who is Soupy? Why would I be a hobo named Soupy? What does that mean? And I was going through a really dark time, like I was saying at the beginning, and I really wanted to run away, but I didn't want to actually leave my life or kill myself. And so I didn't know how to sort of leave without leaving. And that's when when this guy put the hobo thing on Facebook, I was like, oh, maybe I could just become a hobo, you know? And then I just started thinking about who would Soupy be, and why would she leave home? And so I kind of followed her.
That is a great question.
Any other last questions?
Question for Joe.
Yeah.
I have loved your use of color in this.
Oh, thank you.
I like that.
Good question.
It's mostly two-tone, but I like that where you have the hard shadows and up in the loose, flamey bits. It was very different. Was that a technique, or is that like an instinct thing that you were just...
I mean, I had to develop a little something about me all throughout youth and most of my professional work. I have been afraid of coloring. Like, it gives me anxiety, kind of like, oh, I can't color things. But a few years back, well, the book that I did before I did Soupy was this book called The Leg, which was written with my collaboration with Van Jensen, common friends of ours. So I did this book with Van Jensen, and so far we had just planned to do a black and white book, but Van felt that it would be better if we had a colorist. So he sought out a colorist, and when we landed on this colorist, his name is Matthew Petz. He started sending us pages, and I was just so blown away by what he had done with my work. And I just felt like that's exactly how I want my work to look from now on. That's exactly how I want the colors to look. That's awesome. And then, once I landed on working on with Soupy, I think our editor had assumed that I had done the coloring for the leg. So that put me in a very odd position of like, well, now what? Put your money where your mouth is. That's what that means. So it just kind of put me on this, on this situation where like it's fight or flight kind of thing of just like, okay, we'll tackle that and just look at what Matthew did and see how you can do it yourself and take it from there. And I didn't use Matthew's technique specifically, but I kind of took a lot from what he was using, and I asked him some questions of like how he went about color, and then it came up, and so I started coming up with these themes.
Yeah, and I want to show you that like it really does like sort of change colors throughout the book. And I also want to say that Joe's inks they didn't even need color. I mean, it was so gorgeous that, I mean, just like the dark, the blacks, I mean, were just amazing. But you can see that there's like a real intention to the way that the colors are done. And if you look through it, there are certain moments that are specifically colored for specific reasons. Right.
I mean, like that's something that I started coming up with. Like once it was the moment of sink or swim. Of like I have finished penciling, I have finished inking it. Now you have to color it. So I just had, I think it was about 3 months to color the whole book, and I had to jump in there. So I started coloring. It started off a little bit of just pick a color, and then start deviating from there and start picking up like what are your strengths. And then as the book went along, I started uncovering what I wanted the colors to mean, and then I started adding meaning to those colors themselves. So throughout the book, like certain colors mean different things to different characters and whatnot, and it was a learning process. And now after that, like now that's definitely how I want to color books. So it turned out it was really special. I think there was like one color that I didn't like. It was like weird orange. Just that, yes.
Yeah, there was like a weird orange that like he did, and I was like, oh no, not that orange, And that was it. That was the only.
Right, except for that color had been in like about 9 or 10 pages. So
I apologize.
It was a wonderful
so Tuesday
to be like,
well, I'm so sorry.
No. It was just it's
the worst.
Again, learning curve.
Yeah.
Learning curve. But
so maybe one more question, 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll set up for or no. Yeah, Cherie.
Joe, do you draw digitally, or is this?
Oh, he's got pages to show.
Original art, is it available for sale?
It is available for sale. So that's a 2-parter question. Because I'm also a commercial artist and I also do other freelance work, I have to work digitally just because that's where the industry of commercial art is going. Like it's not my preference, but I gotta survive. However, for comics specifically, I do want to keep on doing traditional work just because it adds. It definitely adds, and I'll indulge on this for a second if you don't mind. Like it's I'm sure that every artist will have their own different, their own different ways of working. But for me, it's just so important to draw directly on a physical page, and it just adds an extra value of having to prepare the page, having to draw the template, having to do the kind of that erasing. And I use these terrible colored leads with my mechanical pencil that require huge upper arm strength. Don't ask me how I do it, just to erase. But it adds so much it adds so much feel, and that's something that I do think that kind of also comes in the book. To put that kind of work into it. So yeah, so I do. It's comics themselves. The comics that I do are traditionally made, and it's like they're drawn on pencil and then inked and then scanned, and then I do color digitally because you know how I said earlier that I was afraid of coloring. Like I'm okay with coloring digitally for now.
And you have some pages with you.
Yes,
yeah. So if you want to see some of the original pages, Joe has them here tonight, so you can see some of the original pages.
So yeah.
Any last question?
So we'll take one more if you want.
Yeah, one more. Come on. One more. Yeah.
What are you guys working on next?
Oh, thanks, Amber. I'm doing Shade the Changing Girl, which is an ongoing comic at DC Comics, and I'm super proud of it. It's my first ongoing comic book, and it's like until they cancel it. So like I just have to keep coming up with story, which is an amazing, amazing challenge as an author. I love it, and also I fear it. And then I have a new novel that comes out. It's going to be in Scholastic book clubs in the fall, but it comes out officially in January of 2018, and it's called Don't Cosplay with My Heart, and it's a YA novel, YA romance at comic book conventions. So I'm pretty excited about that book.
We're also working on Soupy Volume 2. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Okay, no. Other than commercial work, I'm currently working on 2 books. One with, I'm going to drop her name again, Kel McDonald. We're starting to work on a new book, and it's really cool. That's all I can say for now. But also, I'm also starting to work on a book that it's written by myself. So so I'm starting to tackle that beast. So I was already nervous about coloring. So writing is, I don't know how you do it. I don't want to know how you do it. But it's but
a lot
kudos
of tears.
Like it's
so many tears.
It's sometimes I just take showers just so I can forget about it.
Actually, that's my cure for writer's block. Wash your hair.
Yeah. So it's but no, like currently I'm working on a graphic novel that takes place in my hometown. That it's about music. So it's
and then we have other secret projects that we can't talk about. Blah blah blah. Secret projects. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to put a table up here, and then you can buy our book and line up over here, and we'll sign it, and he'll show you original art. Oh wait! What about the hobo signs? Did anybody do any hobo signs, or was it only you?
Oh, what?
Yay!
Yes.
Okay, what does your hobo sign mean?
This is my hobo sign.
Wait, show it to everyone.
It's chocolate chip cookies available.
Yay! Yes. What is your hobo sign, Margaret?
My hobo sign, it means nerds live here.
Yay! What's your hobo sign?
You can probably guess this one. It has to do with a book author.
What is it? Good books here? What is it? I can't see. 2 boys and a girl?
Okay, so what is that?
Two boys and I don't know.
Why?
Oh, David Levin. Yeah. Who else? What's yours?
As someone who's scared of woodland creatures, which means skunks.
I love it. Will you? Oh, is there one more? What's yours?
Yeah, free Wi-Fi.
Yeah! Will everybody who did a hobo sign bring them up so that I can take a picture
Yes,
of them?
please.
What's yours?
Kira.
Oh, Kira's. It's scary. Does that mean something scary's here? Oh my God, I love it.
That does look like a weird monster. I'd be afraid of that too.
And if you want to draw more hobo signs, there's chalk and hobo placards. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thank you again.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget you can listen to this and all our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.